Welcome to Lost Relation Chronicles.
My name is Ben Brown, and I'm a 29-year-old computer engineer. I'm also a part owner of a small chain of used car dealerships, which my older and younger brothers manage. I live in California with my girlfriend of 3 years, Kathy Smith. We met when I first moved here, and she helped me find an apartment back when she was working at a real estate agency. Now, she's working for a law firm and studying to become a lawyer. I'm not the most social person and don't have any friends here. My only close friend, Mike, lives in Springfield, so we don't see each other often. Mike has a 3-year-old daughter who demands all his time and attention, and honestly, I wish I had a little girl who would do the same for me. With Kathy by my side, I was looking forward to building a happy future. She's always been open and made a point of including me in everything. Since we started dating, she's asked me to drive her to her girls' nights out, and I've ended up joining them on more than one occasion. Most of her friends are either lifelong friends or people she's known for over 20 years. So, life seemed pretty great. Between my job and the income from the car dealerships, I was making about $100,000 a year. I drove a BMW, and Kathy drove a Porsche. I was surprised when, one night, I spotted her car while driving home from work. She had told me she was spending time with a colleague who was feeling down, and the thought of going back to an empty house on a Friday night wasn't appealing, so I spent the evening with Mike, his wife Rose, and their daughter Maria instead. I stopped at a jewelry shop on my way back and bought the biggest stone that I could afford. It was time that I made Kathy mine to hold and cherish for the rest of my life. When I saw her car driving in front of me, I thought it was nice that the two of us would reach home together. I intended to start pampering her as soon as we got in the house and would make sure that when we came out of the house in the morning on Monday, we would be engaged to be married. Not that I had any doubts that she would say yes. She, however, seemed to have other plans and made a left about a mile before our exit. I do not know why, but I followed. It could just have been a reflex on my part. Her car stopped at the sidewalk, and a tall, well-dressed man got down from the car. After taking a step away from the door, he leaned and took a handkerchief from his pocket and handed her from the window. I could see her putting the handkerchief in the dashboard as she blew him a kiss and drove off. As she stopped in front of a video rental, I drove past her and saw her taking a video from the dashboard and walking into the shop. It was late in the night, and I do not think she noticed me. I thought nothing of the man in the car with her, as it could be anyone who she agreed to drop on her way home. For all I know, he could be the husband of her friend who was feeling down. I reached home, and in about half an hour I heard her coming in. We had a light dinner, and then we retired to the bedroom. She went into the bathroom as I settled in for the night. She came back several minutes later wearing only a black lacy top and black thong. We ended up having sex. We slept late next morning, and it was close to noon when we woke up. I was the first to get up. As I got up, I saw her sleeping beside me. Her face was partially covered with hair, and she had a calm angel-like feel on her face. I walked up to my laptop and opened up my diary. I wrote in there how happy I felt today, and I also wrote about my plans for the evening. That reminded me. My plans needed the right ambience, and I had no candles in the house. I also wanted to buy some flowers and maybe something special for her. I rushed out so that I could buy the stuff I needed and got back home before she woke up. I found that my car had a flat tire, and I need to borrow her car. I hated this. Her car was too girly for me to be comfortable. I got in and drove to the supermarket. After shopping hastily, I got back in the car and drove back. I opened the dashboard looking for a napkin to wipe my hands. I saw a piece of cloth and, remembering the handkerchief from last night, took it out to wipe my hands with it. It was not a handkerchief. It was a soft satin thong. I recognized the thong immediately. It was one that we bought for our trip to Bali. So, if this was what the man handed to her, I could not think of anything. My mind was going numb. I felt my whole world crashing around me. I just sat there thoughtless. I was not angry, not hurt, and not thinking. There might be an explanation for his, was the first thought that came to my mind, but then I dismissed it. I have not handled any thongs ever that did not mean sex. As I drove home, I knew that all plans for my proposals had to be kept on hold. I could not walk into a marriage with doubts in my mind. Doubt is a horrible thing. It basically destroys relationships even when it is unfounded. As I drove into the garage, I could feel a surge of emotions. I was hurting. I was hurting bad. I needed this to be resolved fast. As I entered the apartment, I heard her speak over the phone. I cannot meet you tonight. I have just found out that Ben has plans for us this evening that are more important than me meeting you. After a brief silence, I heard her speak. Of course I love you more than I love Ben. But let us admit, you are not going to divorce that wife of yours, and I am not going to spend my life being a rich man's side piece. I wish that I could be with you always instead of this loser. He does not even recognize the fact that I might need some rough loving. Last night he was all mushy and romantic. I did not enjoy. I pretended. I am not a cold woman. I just do not love it when he is making love to me. Yet, I will say yes to marry him when he asks me tonight. This is unless you can find it in you to leave your wife and take me to be yours, the way I want it. I have had enough of this. There was just one fact. She was cheating on me. This was end of life as I knew it. I slammed the door so that she would know I had come. She simply put the phone down and walked up to me and kissed me as I entered the kitchen. Then she told me that she was going to take a bath and asked me to prepare the breakfast. I walked to the phone and picked it up and hit the redial button as soon as she was out of the kitchen. A lady answered the call and I told her that this was a call from the phone company and that there was a fault in the phone lines and lots of complaints had been received. We were just checking if the phones were working fine because we would not want anyone charged for phone calls not made by them due to this mix-up. She thanked the phone company for taking care of this. Some small talk later I had her phone number. Now I knew that he lived within a few miles from my house due to the area code. He must have lived near the place she dropped him. When she came out of the bathroom, I was still sitting in the kitchen, although the breakfast wasn't ready. I wasn't ready either to confront her. It had to be done in the right manner, at the right time. I was just too lost in thought when she said, "What's gotten into you? Did you hear a word of what I said?" I told her that I was distracted and told her a sob story about one of my classmates being in a fatal car accident and how I came to know of it today when I called up my brother. She said that she understood me. I just sat there thinking how wrong she was. She never understood me, or else she would not go around doing what she did. I passed the day sitting in a corner moping and feeling sorry for myself. By the time evening came, I was feeling sorry for her. She did not come from a very rich family, but had gotten used to a lavish lifestyle due to my money. She was going to lose that, and she had already lost me. It was then it dawned on me. She had one thing more to lose, her lover boy. All I had to do was make sure that she lost him, and then letting her know I knew would be better. She would be all alone. I knew that she would have all her friends, and they would give her some support. I made a few phone calls early next day and made an astounding discovery. The phone number belonged to a certain Roger Jones, husband of her friend Samantha. This was going to hurt her more than I thought. She might just end up losing her friends too. I was sorry for Samantha, though. She was the sweetest person you could meet. I remember one time when I was really sick and Kathy was out of town, Samantha had made a trip twice a day for a week to ensure that I was well fed and taken care of. Since that time, I saw her as my younger sister. We even joked about it when we met. Being very shy, I actually had not tried to befriend her too much, but I always felt good about seeing her around. I sleepwalked the whole day, and at the end of the day, I gave my 2 weeks notice to the company letting them know I was quitting because I was planning on moving back home and not intended to stay on in California beyond the next month. My boss was shocked and offered me a raise and even promised to talk about a promotion with the management. He said I was too good an employee to lose for any reason. Next, I went and met Mike and told him what had transpired. I pulled no punches in giving him the details of what I knew. He was very understanding and gave me the right advice. Forget revenge and walk away. In my efforts to hurt Kathy, I would be hurt too. I knew that, but I knew any hurt would not pain as much as I pained right now. I knew that I was going to make Kathy regret what she had done to me. I reached home late in the evening to find that Kathy had not returned. I installed a key logging software on her computer and then took out the audio recording device and planted them in each of the rooms and then bugged the telephone so that I could monitor what was going on. All of it was being recorded in my laptop. All that I needed to hook up to my laptop was a small dongle that looked almost like a Bluetooth dongle. It was the receiver for all the microphones and recorded each microphone in a separate file. It was all very complicated, but for someone who was born to play with computers and gadgets, it was no big deal. I also installed a high-resolution video camera overseeing our bed. I was all set up by midnight and Kathy was still not home. She came in around 1 in the morning and was surprised to find me still awake. I acted normal and told her that I had a bit of surprise for her this weekend. I let her know that I was planning a party this weekend and I had an important announcement to make. She obviously thought that I was going to propose to her in front of the whole crowd and make a lot of fuss about it. She ought to have known me better. I am a very private person and would have done nothing of the sort. I asked her to invite all her friends in the party and also informed her that I had already invited her folks over for the party. I was not going to take any prisoners. People were going to get hurt, and I wanted her to be blamed for everything. Then I informed her that I was going away for a day the next morning and would not be back till following morning. Just as soon as I went to the shower, she called up Roger. As I came out of the bathroom, I saw her hanging up. I later heard the recording of the phone conversation where she asked him to come over the next day, and they would spend the day together. He suggested that he could pretend to go out of state and be with her not just the day but also the night. She then told him that she would love screwing him in my bed. It would complete his status as a cuck, she said, and then the two of them had a good laugh about it. I called up Samantha from my mobile as I left the house for office and asked her to meet me at a restaurant not too far from where she had her practice set up. She was a budding plastic surgeon and had quite a practice someone so young. She was just 28 and barely out of med school, but her miraculous operation of a burn patient had been headlining news, and now she had a roaring practice for those who wanted to look flawless. When Samantha met me later that day, I told her what I knew and she was very calm about it all. She did not cry or even get angry. She just had a sad look in her eyes. She asked me what I intended to do next, and I told her about the recording and the plans that her husband and the love of my life had made. She said that since she would be opting for a divorce, the recordings would come in very handy. She, however, asked me if there was a need to humiliate them in public. I chose not to reply. I had no justification. I just had the urge. When I got home from the trip, I was welcomed with the warmth and affection that I deserved. I knew it was an act. I did not make any efforts to get physically close to her. It was almost revolting to even touch her. I had to do something about it. If I did not sleep with her in the same bed, she would ask questions, and I might lose my composure and let her have it. I did not intend to give in so easily. I told her that I had a lot of work to finish as I was looking forward to getting the job I carried from client site finished up before weekend. I told her it might even result in a promotion and it would make the rest of life a lot easier. She bought that, and I sat down on my computer with my headphones on and stared to put together a show for the people that were going the premiere of the video clip that I had collected. It had everything good sex tape could have. I suddenly find my eyes wet. I was crying. As I looked at the diamond ring I bought for her, I was feeling a sudden loss of faith. It was almost someone had ripped my heart out, and all that was left was an empty cage of ribs with a hollowness that was all-engulfing. I walked to the bedroom and looked at her and cried some more. Have you ever seen a grown man cry? You might someday, and it will not be a very pretty sight, I must assure you. It takes a lot of courage for a man to admit that he is hurting. I had found that courage, and I was just wondering if I could find enough courage in me to forgive her and not to go through with this sordid plan of mine. I did not have the courage to ask myself this question, not tonight, certainly not tonight. The next morning, I told Kathy that I was going to stay home all week, as I have to finish paperwork on the new client. She took it well. I also asked her to take a few days off and spend some time with me. I wanted her to know what she was going to miss in the years to come. I wanted her to taste luxuries that she had never known. I wanted her to know what she was throwing away. Every time that she would think back on our days together, the only question I wanted her to ask was, how could I be so stupid? Do you love me? This question took me by surprise. I had no idea what to say, but then I did say something smart. I love you more today than I will ever love you for the rest of my life. She narrowed her eyes and said, Now, what is that supposed to mean? It's deep, baby. Real deep, I said in an almost comical tone. I just wanted this conversation to end. I took her shopping that day and spent a lot of money getting her a lot of expensive dresses. I picked one out for her to wear on the weekend party. It almost went close to a bridal dress. I could see she was pleasantly surprised. Then I took her to the most exclusive restaurants in town. I could see how excited Kathy was to come out to a place like this. I did take her out frequently, but mostly it was to places we would meet friends. The next step was to let her know what she could have had. Now, I am a man of modest habits and I do not spend much. In fact, I was able to save a little from what I made working. This also meant that I never touched a penny that I made from my business. Although Kathy knew I was loaded, she had no idea how much. I wanted her to get the idea. The next morning, I left my bank statement lying on the desk as I went to take a bath. It was a place I was sure she would find it. Later in the day, I heard a recording of her talking to one of her friends. Becca, you are going to flip out when you hear how much my darling Ben has just in his savings account. Then she gave her an obscene amount. No kidding. I had no idea the stakes were so high when I went around screwing with Roger. I am going to end all my association with Roger till the time I am safely married to Ben. She planned to end all her associations, for the time being. I was planning differently. I called up Roger in the evening and asked him to meet me at a small diner near his office. We had met on a few occasions when he had come to drop Samantha off to take care of me and had shared some small talk, but he was kind of surprised when I asked him to meet me. When I met him that day, I was almost on the verge of breaking every bone in his body. But I am a peaceful man, and I remember what my papa told me: anger finds its best ally in a gentleman. As we sat down, I asked him if he had any idea why I asked him to meet me. He said that he did not have the faintest of the idea, but his voice betrayed him. I knew he knew I knew. I just came out in the open and told him to stay away from Kathy, and to make sure that Kathy never finds out that we ever talked. I told him in detail what me and my basketball buddies, I lied, I do not play basketball, would do to him if I ever found out he has met or talked to Kathy again. He said that Kathy called him in the morning and told him that she wanted to have nothing to do with him. I knew she did call him, but her words were, I do not want to have anything to do with you till I am safely married to Ben. He was lying to my face. Well, he had been doing a lot worse behind my back, so I guess this was okay for now. I told him that if he did not keep his word, Samantha would also find out. That scared the hell out of him. When he left the diner, he was just about as confident about his marriage as I was about sharks falling out of the sky on me during a storm. I called Kathy up on her cell phone and asked her to meet me at the office of the real estate agent who had helped me look for my current apartment. When she got there, I was already deep in conversation with the estate agent about a villa a few miles out of town. We drove out there, and I really liked the property and thought that this would be a good investment to make. Before we left the property, I told the estate agent that my lawyer will be in touch with him about the purchase of the property and also that I might want to buy it in the name of wife. This was the first time I had ever mentioned about marriage or wife in front of Kathy. As we drove off, she asked me if we could afford the mortgage on the house. Bitch. She knew that I could buy the villa with hard cash any given day, and she was acting as if she was not sure if I could afford it. Well, this was a villa she was never going to step again into. Then I called Samantha from my phone and asked her if she could help Kathy buy some new shoes and designer dresses for our trip to France the next week. She was most glad to help. I told Kathy to spend as high as $10,000 and that she could charge it to her credit card and I would pay up later. That night she came home with some beautiful designer garments. I jokingly asked her if she had bought insurance for them. She just smiled and she looked genuinely happy. I could see how much it was going to hurt her. I spread out the dresses on the bed and asked her to get us some red wine to drink and celebrate tonight. When I was on my 5th glass, I accidentally spilled wine all over her dresses and ruined them. It was heartbreaking for me. Nah, it was not. I was enjoying every minute of it. Now, here was a maxed-out credit card that would keep her busy for the next year. It was Friday night, and I was not going to let the night end so easy. I finally spoke to her and told her that this amount was peanuts for me, and then showed her my bank statement when she acted as if she did not believe me. Then I took her out on the terrace and showed her the engagement ring that I had bought a few days ago. Then I told her all the dreams I had for her and me, 2 kids, a son and a daughter, and a small villa on the outskirts of the town. I told her that I had waited all my life to feel completely in love, and then I told her about the good times that we had together. I took her back to the day when I told her for the first time that I loved her. I told her that I loved the way that she looked and smelled on that day. I could recall the dress she was wearing, the glint in her eyes, and it hurt me a little as I thought how little she thought of these things. I took her inside and switched on the music system as I sat down next to her, holding her in my arms for one last time. At that time, I knew I was not going to walk out of this mess unhurt. I was going hurt as much as I was going to hurt her. The only good thing was that since I was already hurting, there was nothing new that was going to happen to me tomorrow at the party but for her. It would be the first day of the rest of her life. I said that it was getting late, and we had a big day ahead of us. We needed to sleep a little. The next morning, I woke up early and called the catering company and made sure that everything was set. I then checked my answering machine for any message from people that were not going to make it. There was one from Samantha that said that she was not sure she and her husband would be able to come, but she would give us a clear picture in the evening. The message was addressed to Kathy, so I told her that Samantha had called and left a message. Then I asked if she could persuade Samantha to turn up with her husband because I really liked her and would like her to be present in the evening. I heard her call up Samantha and ask her to make sure that they did turn up. Samantha handed the phone to Roger, who at first said that he could not come, but at last relented into coming. As the evening approached, the caterers came, and the whole house was abuzz with activity. I did not even realize when our first guest arrived. When her parents came in, I walked up to them and thanked them for coming in. Mike came with Rose and Samantha arrived with Roger. I was ready to rock and roll. Mike asked everybody to gather around as I had some important to say. I stood up and started to speak. Tonight I have called up all of you. Some who I love, some who Kathy loves, and a few that we both love. It is the last day that Kathy and I are spending as girlfriend and boyfriend. Kathy was still smiling. I am going to play a small video clip over here and let you decide if what I feel is right. Every time that I look at Kathy, I feel deep in my heart that I am right. At this cue, Mike dimmed the light, and Rose started the video clip that was projected on the living room wall. I walked towards Mike and Rose and stood on the opposite side of the room from where Kathy was sitting. Rose hugged me tight, and Mike put his arms across my shoulder. I just then saw Samantha walk towards us. She needed the support as well. I whispered to Rose to be with Samantha, and she let go of me to hold Samantha's hand. The video started. It was all about the days that we had spent together. I had tears in my eyes and I was shaking. I knew what was coming next. Kathy stopped smiling. The image on the screen was that of her talking on the phone, and the voiceover was still mine say, "I love to watch her so much that I even had cameras all over the house, so that I could see her doing sweet nothings on TV when she was not around. I had voice recorders all over the house, so that I could hear her breath on my music system when she was not around. These were my home videos." Then her voice came over. "I am going to marry Ben, and nothing is going to stop me." This sentence was edited from a phone conversation that she had with Becca. Then the video of her talking on the phone faded away, and faded in another video of her undressing and of Roger sitting on her bed in her bedroom. There was a large thump in the semi-darkness, and just then Mike switched on the lights and Rose stopped the video. I walked calmly into the center of the room and said, "For all who want to see this video fully, please visit me later. I plan on having private viewings of these videos every weekend till people are bored of it and I have no viewers." Then I turned my attention to the direction where the loud thump came from. Her father was lying on the floor with no one around. It was about then that the first person spoke. It was her mother. "Please someone have a look at my husband. He seems to have had a heart attack." She was crying. I felt bad. They were not evil. But then we all pay for what our children do, don't we? I rushed to his side and Samantha was quick to get to his assistance. Kathy was still sitting in the chair and had not uttered a word. Roger had a defeated look on his face and was standing in a corner facing the wall. The party soon broke up. Left in the room were Kathy, Mike, Rose and I. Mike said they would step out of the room if we wanted to talk alone. I told them that would not be necessary. I sat down on the couch and asked Rose if she would kindly fix me a drink. Then I turned to Kathy and spoke to her for the first time in the whole evening. "So, I guess this is goodbye then." She looked at me and for the first time a tear appeared in her eyes. "I am so sorry." I broke her in the middle and started speaking. "It was never meant to happen. It just happened and I did not know how to stop. Swear to God I never meant to hurt you. I love you, and this was nothing but a physical thing that meant nothing. I have no feelings for Roger. I need you. Can we find some way to work this out?" She could not believe what she was seeing. I was being hurtful and rash, something that she would never expect me to be. I was the sissy, the cuck. I said, "If this is not what you were going to say, please complete what you started. But if this is what you were going to say, I have said it and it means nothing to me." She just sat there sobbing. Rose had not gone fix a drink. She had gone to pack up Kathy's bag. As she came out with her bag, Kathy realized what was going on. She was going to get thrown out of the house. She had just seen her father being taken away to a hospital, so she knew for sure that she did not have her parents' place to go. Becca had left the room in a hurry, and I was sure that she would not like to keep her company, as it would cast a doubt on her character as well. So that was another place she could not go. I had carefully snapped her debit card earlier in the evening and removed all but $13 from her purse. Her credit card was maxed out, and she did not have a car anymore. It did not look all that good to me, but then she was still to find out about the debit card and the missing money from her purse. She looked at me and pleaded, "You are not going to throw me out like this. Doesn't our time together mean anything to you? Did it mean anything to you when you went to bed with that a-hole?" I asked. She just sat there saying nothing. "I would love to have thrown you on the streets tonight, but that is not going to happen. Is it?" She looked at me. "You are not going to throw me out on the streets?" "I am going to throw you out on the street because I am sure when he screwed you, he must have left some stink in there." I spat venomously. Mike walked up to me and said, "Ben, you are a better person than this." Kathy looked at him and pleaded, "Mike, please don't let him do this to me." Mike looked at her and spoke to me again. "You are a better person than this. You should not speak in such manner to anyone. If you're going to throw her out of the house, do it quickly. Don't waste our time. She is not worth looking at anyways." I looked at him. He was toying with her. His words were the final nail in the coffin for Kathy. She knew that no one was going to speak for her. I had already taken her keys to the house from her purse earlier in the evening along with her car keys. Now all I had to do was walk her out the door and lock the door behind her. That is precisely what I did. That was the last time I saw Kathy or heard from her. Roger got divorced and is now paying alimony to his already successful ex-wife. I did date Samantha for some time, but nothing went ahead. I guess it will take some time for me to find the love of my life. Dear listeners, please share your thoughts in the comments section below and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.